Hello, hello, and welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, and we're in the break room today, and we're talking about some radical clarity and the expectation gap. So, what it means to have radical clarity surrounding our expectations that we have for one another, our team, all the things. So, the question of the day was or really just a prompt for you to think about a time that a team member or somebody you know let you down. Was that expectation that you had truly explicit? Was it really known? Or was it something that was just understood? And what I mean by that, it truly explicit versus being understood. And I would put that understood in quotes or air quotes, because oftentimes what we believe to be understood is not always understood. You can also think of this as, or it's been mistaken as, this conversation surrounding common sense. Common sense isn't always common, which in real talk, common sense can only be common when you are operating in the same channels, operating in the same world sphere. You're using the same language to describe the same things. You know that when you say A, the people hearing you understand it as A. If that is not the case, then common sense is not so common. And so that same concept lines up when we're talking about radical clarity and what it means to close and shorten that expectation gap. Okay. And I do say close it and shorten it because, yes, people are people, and sometimes we're just not going to be able to close it fully, but we can do some work in that area. And doing that work is going to be good. So, what am I talking about? Can you think of a time where you've had that kind of engagement, you're disappointed, you're there, and maybe the comment that's coming from you or that you're thinking about is, "She knew what I was talking about," right? They knew what I was talking about. It was obvious. Well, if we find ourselves running into that over and over again, it may not be as obvious as we believe it is, or it may not be as obvious even as we believe that it should be. As leaders, and as people who feel it's important to be understood and heard, it will behoove us to take a couple extra steps to gain and distribute, offer a little bit more clarity. And in this case, we're calling it radical clarity. That means we're willing to take the major steps necessary to make sure that we are delivering our communication and our expectations so clearly that there's little room for mistakes, okay? And maybe that's something we need to sit with a little bit and define what clear is in our networks and in our um, engagements of who we're talking with, right? Because I can say clear and believe that it was clear, but will you think it's clear when I have said that, when I've explained what I said, or when I've given a directive? Will you feel it's clear? And there are things that are always going to come into play that, filter that clarity. Okay. So you want to move from implied language to more of explicit language, or implied leadership, to more of explicit leadership. The more we express ourselves and the more people get to know us, know the why behind what we do, know how we do it, and all of that, the fewer instances that we'll have of the the misses in the area of expectation. Now, I want to just caveat by saying, of course, I'm not just being naive. I know that sometimes you're going to ask people to do something and they're just flat out just not going to do it. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the instances where, and this happens a lot, it almost happens, actually, not almost, it does. It happens more than people just looking in your face or just absolutely just not doing what they're asked to do. More than not, there is a miscommunication or a lack of clarity in the expectation and in the direction. Whether it is an overarching lack of expectation and direction, or in the minutia, in the steps of how you wanted to get it done, when you wanted to get it done, what was considered successful completion, what's different today than would have been done last month or last year around this same topic? Has there been anything to shift in the dynamic? Has there been anything to shift in the environment that would cause us to approach this today differently than we would last year? And how much of that are we expecting our team or the person we're engaging with to know that automatically or instinctively, or yeah, that common sense thing, which isn't always so common, okay? Explicit leadership, it really takes the time to fill in the blanks, okay? It will repeat itself, the things that we don't like to do sometimes. It will go on repeat, and it will restate things often. It's okay to restate some things. I mean, how many of you were growing up in this generation, "Don't make me say it again," kind of a thing? We had to get it right the first time. But at the end of the day, if we really do want to increase our production, in that we want to increase our efforts, we want our energy to actually have a return that is greater than what we may have had in the past, this little skill set is going to help you be willing to lead with an explicit lens and not an implied lens. Implications, there's a place for them, but again, it really can get tricky because unless people know all of the ins and outs and the not just the things, that variables that could change something, but that it would change it or that it is changing something, they're more than likely going to go from the last thing that they know, or if it's not been really clear, they're going to go with the last thing that they personally know, or see it through their personal filters. And if that's not something that is going to work in the scenario that you're asking for and giving direction on, then you have to give that information up front, and you have to stay with it enough to understand that things could change. Okay. Think of clarity and that act of giving clarity as kindness. It's kindness to the people you're working with, but it's also kindness to yourself. Honestly, save yourself some cortisol usage, okay? Cuz you might be feeling really good about giving that one line directive this morning. But how are you going to feel this evening or tomorrow or the next day when things are done but not done how you wanted them to be? Or maybe something was done in a totally different sphere of where you were shooting for. Or maybe somebody's sitting back, and because it wasn't super clear, they haven't even started yet what you asked because there wasn't clarity surrounding timeline. These are all just scenarios, but what I want you to walk away from is, with this, is clarity is kindness, and there's nothing wrong with being kind. And the kindness is not just for the sake of walking around being like, I'm a nice person. Kindness, and so what does that do in your environments in order to create this space to be creative, in this space to interject uh, what do you wanna call, ownership of the event, like, you want your people buying in, offer more clarity. Offer more clarity. Clarity is kindness, okay? Let's do that. And then the other thing that this, clarity brings to the team, it really does help to reduce friction. It will help reduce friction amongst them, that even when you're not around, the more clarity that is offered, because people can hear something and take their own interpretation of that, and it can run wild, right? What it can do is reduce friction and open up the door for more negotiation. What do I mean by negotiation? I'm talking here collaboration. Collaboration, negotiation, it's just creating the space for there to be a little bit more conversation surrounding whatever that directive is, okay? Maybe you're looking to increase your sales numbers for the year. Maybe what it is that you're looking for a greater rate of client retention, okay? How are you going after those things? And what is the clarity that you're offering surrounding what your directive is, okay? Reducing friction in the team and creating more space for no negotiation, meaning that if you give the team a job, maybe they need to sit down and figure out how they're going to work that out together apart from you, right? So that's going to require some negotiation amongst them to figure out how they're going to get this overarching thing done as a team and have individual responsibility. Well, guess what? They can negotiate that better when you've offered radical clarity up front. Okay. And also offer it again if there needs to be a midpoint, touch point, and or somewhere along the way they need to round back. Radical clarity at all times. Okay. And B, um, I know I just want to say the things that are kind of out there. I almost said common sense, but the things that are out there, I understand that in times of stress, or when there's numbers to hit, goals to hit, sometimes negotiation can feel like a deterrent. It can feel like it's something that's just going to slow you down. I'm saying this is going to be a game changer and it's going to be a win because it takes you further. What you think that the act of negotiation does, as far as like creating another point of conversation or another point of rally between you, between the team, that little bitty speck of time or those little specks of time along the way will gain you more return than having a quick conversation or a one liner or no conversation to get all the way to the end of a timelined expectation and then be receive product that you didn't ask for, receive a result that you didn't ask for, or not get results at all. Okay, it doesn't match. You don't want it. Let's do the work up front. And guess what? Just as with anything else in life, as we step into these moments and we do them, they may not be always the most fun to do, but as we do them, it will become easier, and we will see the return on those efforts, and it will be encouraging to keep doing it over and over and over again. Okay, leaders, we got this. Radical clarity. It's worth that. Let's close that expectation gap. Your homework, review a current project or yeah, review a current project and look at something. Go look at one of the um expectations that you've offered. Was it explicit? All right. If it wasn't, can you revisit it and go make it explicit this week? Okay. If it was explicit and you feel like it wasn't adhered to, or maybe it was, maybe you just go sit down with that team member and say, "Hey, I offered this earlier or last week. Can we chat through that process. What did it do for you? How did it position you to go accomplish what I asked? Okay. Gain information, do some homework, see what it's like. But let's get some practice in on using explicit expectations and leadership styles as opposed to implied. And also challenge ourselves, okay, in the explicit nature, something that we believe that's explicit. Go back and revisit that and see, was it received in the way that you believe you delivered it? That counts. That counts. All right, guys, we'll see you next week in the break room. If you want to talk about any of this that we've done today, go for it. Drop it in the chat. We'll talk it out throughout the week in that chat. Or if you want more one-on-one, you can pop in and join the Patreon for just $7 a month, and we can have some more one-on time, some more deep dives, drop some activities in there for you guys. Look forward to seeing you next time in the break room. See you guys. Bye.